Hi there, I'm Jonathan Downie. If you're watching this video, it means that you're probably planning to come to the Translation and Localization Conference this year in Warsaw. I recommend you do. As I'll be speaking there, I've been asked to say a few words about what excites me about what you learn. And that's great, that's why I enjoy doing it. I love speaking. What you're going to learn from me is that traditionally we've undersold interpreting. I'm going to be talking about going beyond client expectations. You see, I've been researching expectations of conference interpreters and church interpreters for the past 4 years. And without giving away the punchline of my presentation, I've realised and found out that we've traditionally undersold our work. We've sold our work on the basis of accuracy, on the basis of neutrality, on the basis of terminology, which is great. We all need that stuff. But that's kind of the base level. Clients who just tell you they want accuracy or who never get past accuracy tend to see interpreting as something necessary but not really that useful, not really that valuable. So I'll be talking about how we can go beyond that, how we can offer them services that go above and beyond the minimum, because the clients who call you back and the clients who are most excited about you working with them again are the ones for whom you add value. They're the ones who know they can trust you not just to deliver accurate interpreting, but accurate interpreting that will help them sell, accurate interpreting that will get them great feedback, accurate interpreting that will want their clients to work with them again. So that's the core of my presentation. The people who are going to benefit most from my talk are people who are quite happy for their assumptions and presumptions to be challenged. If you're the kind of interpreter who just likes to rock up to the job, do the job, go home, and not really think about it, you might find me difficult to listen to. In fact, you might plain old disagree with me. If you're the kind of interpreter who likes a challenge, who likes to grow, who's really looking for what else can I do for my clients, who's looking for how else can I attract clients, I'm the person you're going to want to listen to. Not necessarily because I've got hundreds of clients, but because my passion is to build what I say on reality, to build what I say based on evidence, not based on hearsay. So if you're quite happy to be challenged, to see the world in a different way, come to my talk. I blog and I write widely. I've written research publications. I write for industry publications such as the ITI Bulletin and the VKD Courier, but I'm beginning now to branch out into writing for industries where I'll find clients. So I'm beginning to write for the events industry. I'm going to begin to write for more and more industries that need interpreting in one way or another. And the reason why I do that is I want to follow the example of people like Marta Stelmachak and look beyond the linguistic aspects of our work, look beyond even the business side and start thinking, what is it that others are thinking about our work? And maybe I might not get 100 clients from writing some pieces for events magazines, but I might raise the profile of interpreting, I might raise how much interpreting is valued, and that's a worthwhile activity in itself. They've asked me to talk about topics I am really passionate about. Now, I have 2 small children, so I'm passionate about parenting and integrating parenting with the rest of life, with work, with research, with writing. I'm not one for work-life balance. I believe in work-life integration, and I'm passionate about finding out how you integrate these things together. I'm also passionate, as you can probably tell from this video, about interpreting. I'm passionate about helping people understand how interpreting works, what it means, and how to interpret more effectively. That to me necessitates that I'm interested in research. I'm passionate about research not just because I have nerd or geek written across my forehead, but because I believe that we can change our practice based on sound evidence, and we should change our practice based on sound evidence. It's one thing to develop as an interpreter based on what you think and your experience, and that's great, but it's something else if we can lift the practice of an entire industry on the basis of evidence, on the basis of things that are actually happening, that we can quantify, that we can put in scientifically empirical ways. And sometimes the evidence is troubling, and that to me means you've done good research. If the evidence is, it doesn't really matter, or if you look at the evidence and it doesn't shock you in some way, it doesn't inspire you in some way, there's probably something wrong with your study. Now, I've never been to Warsaw before, so I'm expecting and hoping that Warsaw is going to be warmer than the freezing cold, windy Edinburgh that we have today. But also, having met a few Polish people in my life, I'm looking forward to a city that's welcoming, that's attractive, that, like any capital city, is alive, lively, fun. But most of all, I'm looking forward to meeting the people. Cities are great, and architects will tell you wonderful things about buildings, but to me, people are far more important. Some of you have never been to a conference before. Now, I've been asked to give you one tip, and I find it difficult to give one tip because I feel like a conference is a whole experience that you have to be trained for. So I'm going to give you three. Add some value, give you three tips. Tip number one, pack as many business cards as your suitcase will hold and give them away freely. Give them away to people on buses and trains. But here's a tip. On the back of your business card, write where you met the person before you give it to them. And when someone gives you a business card, do the same to their card. The reason for that is that you'll come home hopefully with a wallet full of cards and you won't know who's who. But if you've written or on the back of your cards, Jonathan Downie, Warsaw Conference, talked about interpreting research, when that person goes home and flips over your card, they'll remember you. They'll have a reason to email you, and it's contacts that's so amazing. My second tip is to not get too worried about getting networking right. At the end of the day, people are going to like me for me, or not like me for me. I can put on an act for so long, and then eventually the truth that I like plays on words, that I like to crack silly jokes will come out. If I try to hide that, then I'm building relationships on false pretenses. So be you. Chill out, relax, and be you. And my third tip for any conference is take a notepad. In fact, take two. One of my interpreter colleagues says that an interpreter should never leave the building, should never leave any building without at least one notepad, and I'm beginning to agree with her. Write down notes not just on what you hear during the presentations, but on people you meet, on questions that are going through your mind. While someone's presenting, scribble questions that you want to ask them at the end. Everyone loves you to ask them a good question, especially if it makes them think, oh, I need to go home and do my homework. So those are my three tips rather than my one tip. The theme of this year's conference is experts at work, a theme which I find challenging and interesting. Now, my definition of expertise comes from the research of my colleague Elisabeth Teselius, who's an expert on expertise in interpreting, which is great. She spent 4 years studying it. And she suggests that perhaps there is no such thing as an expert interpreter, simply because K. Anders Ericsson, the founder of modern expertise research, says that an expert is not just about someone who performs amazingly, but the only way that people get to expert level performance is to be coached and mentored along the way consistently. An expert violinist doesn't just go to music school and then never get coached again. They tend to work with people who are going to increase their practice. They work with other musicians. They work with teachers and coaches. And she says that it seems from her experience that very few interpreters have that kind of relationship with someone. So I want to turn expertise on its head, and instead of saying the expert is someone who knows everything, I think an expert is someone who's continually improving. An expert is someone, yes, who's reached a brilliant level of performance, but who isn't content to stay there. The kind of person that I would like to come to my talk are the kind of people who have already got some level of interpreting experience and expertise, but don't want to stay there. Real experts are always developing. They're not just people who have sound knowledge, but people who realise the gaps in their knowledge. People who realise that most skills without practice will eventually shrivel up. So that's my definition of expertise. You can see already I'm a bit of a stirrer. I like to poke people to wake them up, to make them think about how they're working. If that's what you enjoy, if that's what you think will inspire you, feel free to come to my talk. I'll see you in Warsaw.